Today on Console Wars, physical games aren't selling. Companies are doubling down on live service games. Is Sony going to dominate sales over Xbox this generation again? And GTA 6 has been soft announced. We're going to get into these stories and maybe more tonight on the Console Wars podcast. Okay, so obviously this is a new show that we are trying to do. We're going to try and have it release every Sunday night. And we may miss some Sundays. Just bear with us. We're trying to get this off the ground. And trying to get people interested in this. But basically, we're going to be talking about the news of the previous week, our thoughts on it, and where we see things going. So let's get into it with this first story. This is from Push Square, and this story was released on Thursday. Physical games represent just 4% of sales for PlayStation last quarter. Sony's financials for Q2 of 2023 are here, and the reports illuminates that physical games are a drop in the bucket for PlayStation these days. Pardon my slip up. Sony Interactive Entertainment has a record-breaking second quarter in terms of revenue, pulling in 954.1 billion yen. So is that like $25? No, I'm joking. It's worth a lot more than that. Up 32.38% year-on-year. Of that total, physical games account for about 35.5 billion yen, which comes out to roughly 4%. For comparison's sake, digital sales of full games on PlayStation Store represent 21% of total revenue. So, I'm inclined to believe that this is bullshit. Are they going to thumb the numbers? I don't know, but I think they're going to not report them as much as possible because, let's be honest, only 4% of PlayStation owners bought physical games last year. I find that insanely hard to believe. Insanely hard. Because I go into Walmarts, I go into Best Buys, GameStops, places with game sections, and I still see the same amount of people in those sections that I saw 4 years ago and 7 years ago. And then you also go over to look into GameStop. And in 2022, their game sales dropped only 5%. Now, all of Sony's game sales being 5%, and GameStop sales dropping 5%, where's the other 90%? Okay. But their sales in other categories rose 12%. So GameStop's still doing fine. I think this is Sony trying to push for an all-digital future sooner than it actually is going to happen. Because their profits will skyrocket once they hit an all-digital future. Because then they won't have to compete with the used game market. They'll be able to determine the price themselves. And they'll be able to have less sales then. Because the only reason why you're seeing so many sales on the PlayStation storefront now is, in my opinion, because they have to compete with places like GameStop. They're selling used games. I mean, you have games out like Uncharted, the Uncharted collection. You can pick that up for like $10 at a used game store. That's 3 games. That's 20 hours plus of enjoyment. It's kind of hard to compete with the used game market when your new game, isn't offering what old games can offer at the same time. They're not offering anything uniquely new. It's just more third-person, open-world adventure games and whatnot. And there's nothing wrong with that. But these major, huge companies, they kind of want to get the people buying the brand new games. And if you have an all-digital future, then you'll be able to dictate the price period. And you'll be able to, if you ever do a sale, which I don't think you'd see a lot of sales with an all-digital gaming landscape, any sale they do, it'll be like a 10% sale. You won't see these massive sales like you do now because Sony, Xbox, Nintendo, they got to deal with the used game market. But you look at Nintendo, they rarely do sales for their Switch games. It is rare. It's kind of a big deal whenever GameStop has a sale on Switch games. Like a big sale with 50, 75% off because it's like, hey, check this out. I had a GameStop employee point out a 75% off sale for Nintendo Switch games to me. And it's like, well, I don't have a Switch. He's like, still, it's amazing that there's 75% off. Like, he was impressed by it. And so I partially think maybe the used physical game sales of Sony are probably more like 14%, maybe 20%, if not higher. Just simply because of the people I've talked to. A lot of people love physical media still. But there's a huge push for it. I mean, look at the new PlayStation 5. The disc drive that you could buy to add on to it. Like, I promise you, they're not going to tell you the real sales numbers for that disc drive. Because when the PS6 comes along and they go, we're not going to do a disc drive, people go, why not? Well, they're going to say, look, we found that only 1% of PlayStation 5 owners bought the disc drive, put it on, and we found that only 1% of that 1% even used the thing. So we figured there's no point in having it. And all the people at home who have a disc drive is like, wow, I guess I'm that 1% of the 1%. When in reality, like probably 70% of people bought the disc drive and are using it, but if they're told they're the 1%, then they're the 1%. Who are they to know better? And I think you're probably getting the same thing here. They're saying, oh, just 4% of people, it's barely anything, when in reality it's probably much larger because they want to push to a all-digital future so they can control the pricing on used games or older games more. And without the older games dropping in price, they'll be able to have much higher profits. Something I've noticed in GameStops, and you probably have noticed this too if you go to GameStops as well. Have you noticed PS3 and Xbox 360 games being sold in GameStops now again? Have you noticed old Nintendo 64 and Wii and GameCube games being sold at GameStops again? That's not a coincidence. That's GameStop getting ready for the all-digital future. Because GameStop in the 2010s, all they were was current gen, okay? They were like selling off the PS3 and Xbox 360. They weren't buying them again, and they were all about current gen, selling PS4, Xbox One games. And then they start getting word that an all-digital future is coming. It's like, shit. We need to start selling older games. And now I'm getting good authority from GameStop employees that, yeah, next year, 2024, we're going to start selling classic game consoles refurbished again. Because the higher-ups at GameStop see the writing on the wall. They see that, yeah, an all-digital future is coming, and we need to adapt to it, because one day, it's just, if we don't, it's going to be, we're not getting anything new, and all we're going to be selling are those little cardboard cards that sell the digital version of a game that you see at GameStop. So, that is a sign of the times. That's something worth noting. Now, could I be dead wrong about the physical games represented just being 4% is larger? Yeah, I could be dead wrong about that. This is just my personal opinion on the matter. Alright, next up, there's a couple of things that popped up on the same day that just really grind my gears. And so the first thing is this headline: Suicide Squad Backlash doesn't stop Warner Bros. From doubling down on live service games. Warner Bros. Currently has the likes of Mortal Kombat 1, Hogwarts Legacy, and Batman and Game of Thrones IPs under its belt, all of which may receive treatment in the coming years. CEO David Zaslav explained the focus to transform its console and PC titles to include more always-on gameplay through live services, multi-platform, and free-to-play extensions, with the goal to have more players spending more time on more platforms. Zaslav added, ultimately we want to drive engagement and monetization of long cycles at higher levels. We are currently under scale and see significant opportunity to generate greater post-purchase revenue. And then this headline, Sony delays 6 live service PS5 games, but company remains committed to the model. Wants the games to be enjoyed for a long time. Sony slashed its live service plans, announcing that 6 of its 12 in pre-production projects were not released by March 2026. That was a really dumb idea anyway. As previously planned, the platform will hold was planning to launch the dozen or so titles by the end of its 2025 fiscal year, but in earnings call, Sony bigwig Hiroki Tutoki, if I'm pronouncing it right, confirmed that it's since scaled back its ambitions. That wasn't ambition, that was stupidity. I will explain that in a second. We are trying as much as possible to ensure that these games are enjoyed and liked by gamers for a long time. Gee, that sounds familiar. He explained, of the 12 titles, 6 titles will be released by FY25. That's our current plan. As for the remaining 6 titles, we're still working on that. That's the total number of live service and multiple titles. And mid to long term, we want to push this kind of service, and that's the unchanged policy of the company. It's not like we stick to certain titles, but game quality should be the most important. And then, of course, this article also talks about how Destiny developer got a bunch of layoffs, and how Naughty Dog scaled back the development of the previously announced multiplayer game, The Last of Us Factions. They cut down the team, and Concord got delayed. So, and of course, you have Jade Raymond's company making that piece of crap Fair Games. You have London Studios not working on what they should be working on, but working on online-based property. Guerrilla Games is working on a multiplayer version of Horizon. So, like, Sony is a mess because of Jim Ryan. Let's get that straight. Jim Ryan was driving that company into the ground, and, like, I made a video talking about how I thought Xbox might win this generation. Huge quotation emphasis on might for any Sony ponies out there. And one of the reasons why I thought Xbox was going to win was because of the damage Jim Ryan was committing. And now that Jim Ryan is going to be out by next year, I think Sony has a chance, especially if they get away from this live service model that Jim Ryan was doing. Warner Brothers, they're just digging their grave deeper. David Zaslav does not know games. And one of the biggest issues with live service, okay, I'm going to put it in a sort of analogy. Imagine you have a dance room. You got 100 guys in there, and you have 50 girls show up. Those 50 girls are going to take 50 of those guys home with them, okay? But then you decide to add another 50 guys to the remaining 50 guys in that dance room. And no girls show up. That's the live service model, okay? You have games like Fortnite, Call of Duty, Apex Legends, Destiny, Overwatch. Overwatch 1, not 2. And these games have been insanely successful. But here's the thing. Those are the 50 guys that went home with the 50 women. Okay? There's no more women. Okay? The women in this analogy are the live service players. Okay? There is only a finite number of live service players. And they're all accounted for. Okay? They're all in Destiny. They're all in Fortnite. They're all in Call of Duty. They're all in Apex Legends. They're all in Overwatch. That's it. They're trying to do more live service with Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. It's not going to happen. everyone says they don't like how that game looks. They delayed it a year, and it looks like they just used that year to polish, when in fact they should have been drastically restructuring the game. I mean, you look at the past year at all the live service games that have died. Literally died. Marvel's Avengers, the one that I actually got into. The only way you can get into that is by getting a physical copy. They aren't doing any more content. They aren't selling anymore. They were just keeping the servers running for another year or two until people stop playing it, and then they're going to shut off the servers. Like, that is a dead game. Okay? Dead. You look at Babylon's Fall. Dead. You look at so many live service games. Dead. And Suicide Squad, same thing. It's going to be a dead game after the first couple of months. You'll have some people initially play it, but then they'll lose interest. And, you know, this new game that Bungie is developing, Marathon, got delayed because Sony, they're looking at the live service model, and it's like, yeah, most of this is probably going to die. And that thing where they were going to release 12 live service games by 2025 was pure insanity. You need at least a year to be able to see if your live service game is going to survive or not. And to release 12 in the span of 2 was insanity. They basically were just throwing everything at the wall to see whatever stick, and then whatever was sticking, they were going to put more focus on and let the other companies die. Okay? Sony, you are not good at live service games, okay? Stop trying to do it. I mean, you want to try doing it a little bit here, a little bit there, like Xbox was doing, fine. And I get them why to expand with the Destiny developer, and like, hey, Marathon, okay, let's work on Marathon, and maybe another 2 companies here and there are working on live service games. Like, let's work our way into it so that we can actually develop some live service games that aren't toxic to people, that people actually want. But no, Jim Ryan was just like, you know, screw all your ideas, make it a live service game, and make it lame as hell. I mean, like, this 12 live service game plan that Sony's doing, it's going to bite them in the ass hard. Unless they completely restructure, which they should do now that Jim Ryan's out. They should go to the ones that haven't announced yet, like, hey guys, actually make some single-player games and stop doing this live service crap that Jim Ryan was forcing us into. We're already committed with some of these. But, I mean, like, honestly, who's really excited about Concord? Okay? Who? Like, there's already Starfield, which is Concord, but you can actually play it offline once you get it installed. And there's also No Man's Sky, which you can play offline. Like, Concord, oh, do you want to play the game that you can play offline, No Man's Sky, or you want to play this piece of shit that's going to be online only, even though it's going to have you fight against AI-controlled bots? I mean, if these live service games actually had a legitimate reason to be online only, fine. But like Destiny, I can't stand Destiny because I'm only ever fighting against AI-controlled bots, and yet it always forces me online. It is the dumbest bullcrap you could possibly imagine with a live service game. And if most of these live service games were playable offline, it wouldn't be an issue. It's like, hey, look, you want to unlock all the cool weapons, you gotta play it online. But if you just want to, you know, level up your character, you can play it offline. You know, like, that would be cool. But no, they don't do that. They force people to be online because there's a greater chance of them buying stuff if they're always online, which is stupid logic. Okay? I still bought stuff with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, even though I played it mostly offline. Okay? That is the dumbest logic in the world. If people are always online, they'll buy more. It's stupid. So, moving on to this next segment. This article, PS5's install base closes on 50 million units sold as Sony gets increasingly aggressive. Sony is making up for lost time. With the PS5 heavily affected by post-pandemic stock shortages, the Japanese giant is trying to catch up to the PS4 sales and overtake them. It is a feat it'll likely achieve over the holidays, as a 4.9 million units quarter has put it just 1 million units behind its previous console when launch aligned. As of 30th September, the new gen console shipments have topped 46.6 million units. So let's be clear about something. That doesn't mean there's 46.6 million people with PS5s. That just means how many consoles have shipped. Okay? That's really important to note. Sony's been kind of funny with some of its sales figures in the past. And then this other article, it reads, it sounds like PS5 is handily outselling its next-gen rival in France. Ratio nearing 90% against Xbox now. So, is Sony winning this generation? Well, most Sony ponies will tell you yes. And most Xbots will tell you, well, Xbox just hasn't gotten its stride yet. I'm inclined to agree with the Xbots on this one. Now, I'm not saying that Sony's losing. No, Sony's doing incredibly well. I mean, financially. But I think this kind of pertains to the last generation. Because if you don't know, the last generation, Don Matrick nearly annihilated Xbox. He nearly ruined the company of Xbox. Not Microsoft, Xbox. I mean, that guy had it in its darkest place. That was one of the worst CEOs of all time, surpassing Jim Ryan. As much as I hate Jim Ryan never got as bad as Don Matrick. Okay. So, Phil Spencer comes in, and he starts rebuilding the company. But the issue is, the Xbox One, its lifetime total sales was 57.96 million units. Compared to Sony's 117 million units. That's how bad Don Matrick was last generation. So, the reason why I'm bringing up last gen is because with last gen and with the destruction that Don Matrick did, so many Xbox players jumped ship and went over to PlayStation 4 because it was a better deal. All around. Okay? Like, only an idiot would have gone with Xbox One. Towards the end of the generation, Xbox One became an interesting prospect to get, and I got one at the end of the generation, and it was fun. It was cool. I liked it. Now, in total sales on PlayStation, right now they are at 46.6 million units sold, and Xbox has sold over 21 million units. So, compare that 21 million with the 56 worldwide for Xbox One. That's better than where they were at 3 years in with the Xbox One. So, Xbox Series is doing much better because Phil Spencer has... Phil Spencer has done a better job running the company than Don Matrick. Now, something that I found very interesting is that the Series X and S this week outsold PlayStation in Japan. Which, this is huge. Okay? Microsoft forever has been trying to get into the Japanese market. They tried getting in with the original Xbox. They failed. They tried getting in with the Xbox 360. Failed there. They tried doing it with the Xbox One. I think they sold like 5 units in Japan. That was it. Now the Series X and S have outsold the PlayStation in Japan this week. Which is insane. That is Sony's backyard. And this was being reported by Famitsu. Xbox Series X and S sold a combined 3,301 units last week, while the PS5 and PS5 Digital managed to sell only 2,933 units. Now, this isn't like, oh, Sony needs to bow down. Like, no, this is a wake-up call for Sony. Like, Sony, you need to get your ass in gear, because if Xbox can outsell you in Japan, that means you're not doing something right. That means maybe you are having too many single-player campaigns feel exactly the same. That means maybe you're putting too much effort into live service games. Whereas Xbox, it feels like they're just kind of all over the place. We got indies, we got single-player campaigns, we got live service, we got multiplayer, we got different kinds of multiplayer, we got EA Plus and Ubisoft Plus on Game Pass. We have Game Pass, which is just a Netflix subscription service, and Sony's hasn't quite gotten there yet. They have one, but it's not as good as Game Pass, yes. It will eventually. I give them credit there. They just need some time to even it out, fix it up, have maybe a couple of new releases come out, day one. You know, they just need to work it out, okay? They're trying to catch up with Xbox on that area. That makes sense, and I don't hold that against Sony, that their Game Pass subscription service, which is like PlayStation Plus Premium, I think it's called, it's not there yet because they're brand new at this, okay? You gotta give them some time. But, damn it, they got outsold by Xbox in Japan. That is insane. Absolutely insane. So, yes, they are outselling Microsoft worldwide. Okay? Hands down. But the gap isn't as wide as last generation. Okay? There are some PS4 players that have come over the next generation. It's like, PS5 is not as awesome as PS4. Maybe I should go back to Xbox. I left them after the 360. Maybe I should go back. There's a lot of players like that. There's players that they already switched back after the PS4 because they were just glad that the Xbox One was over with. And Xbox, they're getting a lot of new players in with the acquisition of Bethesda and Activision. And so you got a lot of people, it's like, yeah, I know Call of Duty is going to be on Sony for the next 10 years, but I might as well jump now and get over the Xbox so that I don't have to worry about a 10-year deadline. Okay? You got people like that. You got people, it's like Bethesda. I love Fallout. I love Elder Scrolls. I love Doom. I love Wolfenstein. I might as well get an Xbox. You know, like, that was one of the reasons why I got a Series X, was because I liked those franchises. So, definitely, Sony needs to get their act in gear. They need to get moving, because if they don't pay attention, if they don't get their act together, Microsoft is going to surpass them, because they already did in Japan. It may have only been 1,000 units, okay? But that's the first stone. That's the first straw, okay? You need to be careful about this, Sony. You need to keep an eye on this. The fact that Microsoft outsold you in your own backyard should have alarm bells going off. And then the last story today, Rockstar confirms GTA 6 trailer will be revealed in early December. A lot of people are losing their shit over this. Personally, I don't really care, because I have GTA 4, I have GTA 5, I have yet to play them. I tried playing Vice City, I thought it was a terrible game. I couldn't get through it. I know a lot of people, we feel that as one of the greatest games ever. I just could not stand that game. I've played a little bit of 4, enjoyed it, played a little bit of 5, enjoyed it, but I haven't really dug into those games because they're monolithically huge. So I'm not terribly excited about this. Everyone is, though, and why wouldn't you? GTA 5 sold over 180 million units. Like, it's one of the highest selling, by number capita, highest selling games of all time. Like, I think Super Mario Brothers maybe have sold that much. That's it. The original one. Maybe the original Doom. Like, very rarely does a game sell that many units in only 10 years. And of course it helps that they repackaged it like 3 times, you know? But, yeah, so that's coming. Honestly, funny enough, I saw a fan-made trailer. I thought it was the real thing. I honestly thought it was a GTA 6 trailer. They did such a good job on it. I didn't recognize moments from any other movie or game. I thought it was actually something from Rockstar. It wasn't. It was just a fan-made trailer. It's like so excellently done. If I can try and find that trailer, I'll have it playing on this for you guys so you can see just the high quality of it. But yeah, so those have been the stories of the week. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with me at all? Do you think I'm dead wrong on any of these subjects? Let me know down in the comments below. We're going to try and get another one of these out next week, if possible. So yeah, my name's Chris Ricardo with 11 Hour Reviews, and this has been the Console Wolves Podcast. Episode 1, actually. And we will try to have more stories for you next week. Until then, sign off.